week 6 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few running backs I have as sleepers this week. The first guy is Zach Moss of the Buffalo Bills. So Zach Moss looks like he's the number one man over there in Buffalo, but not many people start him on their fantasy rosters. But he's been pretty serviceable, especially the last few weeks here. Is Zach Moss. Week 3 versus the Washington football team, 13 carries, 60 yards, and 3 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. Week 4 versus Houston, 14 carries, 61 yards and a touchdown. And week 5 at Kansas City, 11 carries, 37 yards, and he did catch 3 balls for 55 yards. So right here, Zach Moss, him and Singletary, the two backs over there in Buffalo, obviously. But in my opinion, Devin Singletary's a droppable player, which I mentioned early in the week at the running back position to drop him. So I think Zach Moss, every week he's been putting up double digits since he got back into the starting lineup with this Buffalo Bill team since week 2. So right here, I think once again in week 3 at Tennessee on Monday Night Football, he'll reach double digits once again. The next running back's Devontae Booker of the New York Giants. So Booker obviously a hot pickup on the waiver wire this week, but a lot of people are going to shy away from him because of his tough matchup, obviously, versus this Los Angeles Ram team coming to town. So right here, Booker looked pretty good last week in relief versus the Dallas Cowboys. 16 carries, 42 yards, a touchdown, and he added 3 catches for 16 yards and a touchdown. So Booker, he could do a little bit of everything. We saw it last season with being the backup to Josh Jacobs. He was pretty solid in Las Vegas, was Booker, and now he'll be the starter over here for the New York Giants for at least a week or two, in my opinion. I know it's a tough matchup versus the Rams, but this guy still can make plays out of the backfield and be a little bit of a security blanket for either Daniel Jones or Mike Glennon, depending who starts in this game. So I think Devontae Booker could reach double digits in this game. And don't be too scared to shy away from the matchup, especially with buys, and especially it's a running back that's still going to get a full workload in this ball game. And final running back I have as a sleeper this week's Jerick McKinnon of the Kansas City Chiefs. So we know McKinnon, when he does play, he's been good throughout his career, but injuries have obviously been a problem for him through his Minnesota Viking and San Francisco 49ers day for McKinnon. So McKinnon now, he's going to have a decent role, in my opinion, here with Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the lineup here for the Kansas City Chiefs. I recommended Darrell Williams as a start, but I think McKinnon, we're going to see him on some passing downs and probably 30 or 40% of the snaps as well in this ball game at the Washington football team. So McKinnon, he was added in 13% of fantasy leagues, and last week, once Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down with the injury, he was in there for a decent amount of snaps, but he only finished the game with 1 rush attempt for 2 yards and 2 catches for 13 yards. But I think in this one, at the Washington football team that gives up the 14th most fantasy points to running backs, I think McKinnon could carve out a decent role, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him have 3 or 4 catches for 40 to 50 yards in this one. So if you're in a deep pinch with buys or injuries, he's a sleeper start this week. So that's a few sleeper running backs I recommend here for week 6 of the fantasy football season.